Ever wondered what Luxembourg's traditional dish, Judd met Gaardebounen, tastes like? Today we're going to find out. This hearty, rich-flavored stew hails from the heart of Luxembourg. It's a savory blend of smoked pork collar, beans, and a medley of vegetables and spices that lend depth and complexity to each bite. Whether it's a cold winter's day or just an ordinary day, this dish is a perfect comfort food. Are you ready to dive into the world of Luxembourgish cuisine? Let's get cooking. First things first, gather all your ingredients. This recipe calls for smoked pork collar, white or green beans, onions, carrots, celery, garlic, bay leaves, dried thyme, salt and pepper, olive oil, and beef broth or water. Each ingredient plays a crucial role in creating the rich, comforting flavor of Judd met Gaardebounen. The smoked pork collar is key, lending a smoky, hearty base to the stew. Beans, whether white or green, add a creamy texture and a wonderful earthiness, while the onions, carrots, and celery form the aromatic backbone of the dish. Garlic, bay leaves, and dried thyme infuse the stew with a hint of warmth and complexity that is simply irresistible. Now, the ingredients need a bit of prep before they hit the pot. Chop the onions, dice the carrots and celery, mince the garlic, and cut the smoked pork collar into uniformly sized pieces. Rinse and drain your beans and get your seasoning ready. With all the ingredients ready, it's time to start cooking. Now, let's turn up the heat. Start by browning your smoked pork collar in a pot with olive oil. This isn't just about getting a nice color on your meat, it's about building a foundation of flavor. When your pork is well seared and beautifully browned, take it out of the pot and set it aside for a moment. Next, it's time to sauté the vegetables. In the same pot, add a bit more oil if needed. Toss in your onions, carrots, and celery. You'll want to cook these for about 5 to 7 minutes, just until they soften and start to release their juices. This medley of vegetables is going to add a ton of depth to your dish, so don't rush this part. Once your vegetables have softened, stir in the minced garlic. This is one of those small steps that make a big difference. Just a minute or two is all it takes to wake up that garlic and fill your kitchen with its savory aroma. Now, return your browned pork to the pot. Add the rinsed and drained beans, the bay leaves, and the dried thyme. Here's where the magic starts to happen. Pour in enough beef broth or water to cover everything. You're not just making a stew here, you're creating a symphony of flavors that's going to simmer together until it's a harmonious blend of savory, rich, and hearty. Bring the pot to a boil, then reduce the heat. Let it simmer for about 1 to 2 hours. This is where patience comes into play. The longer it simmers, the more time those flavors have to meld together. You'll know it's ready when the pork is tender and the beans are soft and creamy. Before you serve, be sure to taste your masterpiece. Adjust the seasoning with salt and pepper as needed. Remember, cooking is an art, but it's also a science. It's all about balance. Once your stew has simmered long enough for the flavors to meld together, it's time for the final step. The aroma filling your kitchen should be mouth-watering by now. Let's finish up and taste. After a good 1 to 2 hours of simmering, the smoked pork collar has become tender, soaking up all the flavors from the vegetables and spices. The beans, now soft and creamy, have absorbed the richness of the broth, creating a hearty and satisfying stew. But we're not done yet. It's time to give our Judd met Gaardebounen a final touch. Taste the stew and adjust the seasoning. A bit more salt perhaps, or a generous grind of black pepper to add a little kick. It's all up to your personal preference. Once the seasoning is just right, ladle the stew into bowls. The sight of the tender chunks of smoked pork collar, the creamy beans, and the vibrant vegetables is enough to make anyone's mouth water. Accompany it with some crusty bread to soak up the delicious broth, and sprinkle fresh parsley for garnish. The contrast of the fresh herbs against the savory stew adds not only color, but also a burst of freshness. Now, the moment we've been waiting for. Take a spoonful, blow gently, and taste. The smoked pork collar is succulent and flavorful. The beans are melt in your mouth creamy, and the medley of vegetables and spices creates a complex, comforting flavor profile that warms you from the inside out. And there you have it, a traditional Luxembourg dish, Judd met Gaardebounen. Enjoy your meal.